no person should ever have to go through what no parent especially should ever have to go through what he went through. But this one's for him, man. And I think it has a different connotation. It really does. It's nothing that I think as a coach you want to overuse, like this one's for, we all know what it's for. Right. And like, I just envision the weight lifted off his shoulders after getting through this one and getting a win and getting his hands raised. I can feel the emotions coming out of him.
All right, always good to have Eric Nicksick on the channel. A lot going on for this man, the world traveler, including the PFL pay-per-view coming up October 19th, Saudi Arabia, the MMA return of Francis Ngannou against Renan Ferreira, the battle of the big men. 8,000 nicknames for this card, Eric Nicksick. How's it going, sir?
It's good, brother. It's good to talk to you as always, Mike.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here as well. Look, not long from now, Francis Ngannou will walk to a mixed martial arts cage for the first time since he defended the UFC heavyweight title against Ciryl Gane. And we're going to get there in a moment, but you got to travel to beautiful, scenic Salt Lake City over the weekend. Roman Dolidze gets a big win at UFC 307 against Kevin Holland. Weird way to end that fight, but a win nonetheless.
Yeah, a win nonetheless. So you never want to win that way. Like, I get it. It's an injury. But again, like I told Roman, like, you inflicted the injury. You're the one that took him down. That was the transition that he went to, was the armbar, the rib pop. It's unfortunate because I love Kevin, man. He's a good friend of mine. It always sucks when you corner against people that you know and enjoy being around, but that's part of the business. So, but I told him it's 2 paychecks and we head on to the next.
Yeah. So I saw some reports about things continuing to percolate after the fight. Was that true? Because I mean,
yeah.
I saw them, but no one was able to kind of like double up on it. But what happened?
Well, so I always like bring like an extra hat or some stuff in the bucket and to give to like a kid or somebody out in the crowd. So like they went back to medicals. I went out with Aljo and I was like giving a hat away to some kid that I saw. And then when I walked back to medicals, I guess like Kevin and Roman, like Kevin was like chirping at Roman the whole time through the medical tent. And then it just escalated into like, Kevin saying some really not very classy things to Roman, and then Roman getting pretty pissed off, and then that had to get separated. Emotions are firing at that moment. And it sucks, man, because no one wanted to fight to end that way. It wasn't on our choice either. Kevin made the decision to tell his corner about the rib, made Coach Bob Perez make a decision about keeping his fighter in the fight. So we didn't do anything wrong, so to take it that route, I was pretty disappointed. Kevin texted me and apologized. I told Kevin, I wish it didn't go to that extent. I know that emotions are high in that moment, but shit, man, it's a fight. And, I wish it didn't have to turn into like, saying things that he said.
They cool now though?
I wouldn't say they're cool.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say they're cool, but, hopefully cooler heads will prevail at the end of this and we can move on.
Yes. Well, you're going to be moving on to, you're actually going to be moving on to the Apex on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But after that, long flight to Saudi for the return of Francis Ngannou. And yes, he's had a couple of boxing matches since the Ciryl Gane fight, some pretty massive ones, but just days away from the MMA return. Does it feel a bit normal again? It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel normal to me in the regards of like, he's not home, And I think for myself, when we had like the Jairzinho fight, the Junior Dos Santos fight, the Jairzinho fight, the Stipe fight, and even the Ciryl Gane fight, but during COVID, those first 3 fights, essentially, the Jairzinho and the Stipe fight were in the heat of COVID. It was just me and him for a lot of it, like we're just training in the room with Randy and a couple of teammates. So I miss those days, man. And that's kind of what it felt like when I went to Paris. It was just a small group of us and we're in Paris training, but it's also hard to install a game plan and do things like when you're not there every day, that's the difference. So we had so much camaraderie when we were together, but I definitely miss like seeing them every day in the training room and with the teammates and everything else. So that part was a little bit more of an adjustment for me.
So we're just Zooming, Skyping, FaceTiming.
Yeah. And then, I was there for, I think 11 or 12 days. So, the game plan has been set. We kind of already knew the fight was going to happen when he was here in July. We got some training, and then it was reestablishing a lot of that same stuff when I was out there, just working a lot of the game plan and everything. But the hard part to me was like when we had Stipe and Gone, it was like every day, every day, every day, and then I was only there for 10 and 11 days, and it's like back home here for 2 weeks and then back out there. So I just miss like that connection that we all have as a team. I wish we were here together full time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when that happens, but I mean, obviously Saudi Arabia, and you're a busy guy. He's getting ready for this fight, so you kind of have to do what you got to do. And when it comes to this, people doubted, and we've talked about this, so many people doubted that whether or not he'd even return to MMA after the boxing match, because he's just making so much money. And
for sure,
he remained steadfast. The man is a man of his word. He told PFL he's going to fight for them, so that's an automatic. And you had conversation with him, and you took him at his word, and now here we are. I know you're not there with him. You got to spend some time with him. I'm sure you talked to him. Is there a different hunger? I mean, I asked if there's a difference between this Francis and the one that fought Cyril, and obviously that was a very stressful time for you guys with the injury and everything. But outside of that, is there a different spark in him?
It's very different. This is a very different motivation for him. And we all know why he's fighting this fight. And it's to live through his son and fight for Kobe. Obviously he's a competitor and he wants to compete within MMA, but he spoke about this on his PFL breakdown that they did a couple of days ago. And he said he didn't want to not fight because of the death of his son. He didn't want, the death of Kobe to be the reason why he stopped fighting. He wants to find something else to fight for. And that's what he's doing it for. And the motivation is there. Obviously, you're fighting one of the best heavyweights in the world. We have to have the intentions to go out there and fight to the best of our abilities, of course. But with that being said, I just think like every time you step in the cage, your heart, your motivations, your passions might change for something different. And this is something certainly different than we've ever experienced when it comes to fighting with Francis this time around.
Yeah, 100%. And, one thing that keeps coming up from fans and like Q&As that we do when it comes to this fight with Renan is, who's an absolute giant and a monster and very powerful, especially after the Anthony Joshua fight as well. Francis, one of the most durable guys, but he got cracked a couple of times and his chin might be kind of leaving him at this point, even though the knockout happened several months ago, that continues to come up. So, if Joshua can do what he did to Francis with boxing gloves on, what can a guy like Renan do with MMA gloves on? And it's heavyweight. These are big, huge dudes. If something lands, something happens. But can you understand that concern after that, or is that just part of the game?
Both. I mean, you understand the concern, but it is part of the game, especially at that division. It turns into a coin flip, right? Like these guys touch you with 4-ounce gloves. Somebody's going to sleep. Now, what we do have in our favor is I think the fact that Francis has been working a lot of his boxing, a lot of his footwork, and understanding how to roll with those punches, how to tie his counters into his defense. Just the evolution of his striking to me has gotten much more crisper, much more pristine over the last couple of years. And I know that, we weren't able to show that in the Anthony Joshua fight, but leading up to that Anthony Joshua fight, I mean, he's the best I've ever seen him. Unfortunately, Joshua just exposed him a little bit, I think, when the night came. But all that good work that he's put in the past, I think you're going to be able to see on October 19th.
I know you're looking at Pereira and not much further, but I'm sure as a coach, there's a part of you thinking about the future with PFL and where Francis could go and the types of fights for him. And obviously there's guys like Ryan Bader. I think Vadim Nemkov seems like a really interesting fight.
For sure.
Seems to be the most interesting option. Are there any other matchups besides that kind of stand out in your eyes with this roster? Because no offense to PFL, this ain't the UFC. It's not like it's Jones and Stipe and Aspinall and like this whole list of guys. This is the cupboard's a little more bare, at least for right now.
Yeah, and you literally named them all. And then like Dennis Gostov, I think, is another one too that's in the division that he's trained here before, and I've seen how good he is. So there's a couple guys that I think definitely stand out. Maybe it's somebody outside the organization that brings somebody over from ONE FC or maybe Risen or something like that to where we can make that fight. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. It's figure out what we can do right now with Renan, get this win, and then is he going to box again? And we're going to go back over to MMA. So we got a tall task ahead of us, literally.
Yeah, he's a ginormous individual. What do you think happens here? Like, obviously, let's just say hypothetically, Francis goes out and does the thing and
Mm-hmm.
that we've all missed seeing him do over the past few years. He goes out there and gets a big win. Do you think it's another MMA fight, or do you think we give boxing another shot?
I think he boxes again. I think he probably alternates back and forth. I just know his passion for boxing right now, and obviously the paydays. So there's some fights that they can make for him, especially if we can go off and go get a nice win in PFL, springboard him into something nice into boxing. I think he boxes again right away.
You like Deontay? What are we thinking?
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I mean, dude, they're all killers up there, but I think a name value boxer, definitely Wilder, I think is the name that we go and try to fight. This is two dudes that are gonna wing it at each other. They're gonna bomb. They're gonna throw bombs. So let's just buckle up and watch these guys throw.
I know you don't care about any of this because you're focused on Francis, but the promotion for this card has been really interesting because I understand what they're trying to do. They got the King Kong versus Godzilla thing going on, the battle of the giants and all that stuff. I think they're missing the boat here. And I've seen other people say this as well, so I'm not going to take full credit for this. This is for the lineal heavyweight championship of mixed martial arts. And yet I'm not hearing that anywhere outside of this space. Isn't that, I just feel it's super weird.
Not only is it crazy, it's like, so I'll see if I can find it here. Hold on. So I always write down goals and all this stuff and titles and everything else, just for me to see on my cork board every day. And when I'm doing my work, I literally forgot forgot we're fighting for a title, but it's oh, we get another title fight. You think a 5-rounder or whatever else. It's that's how much it hasn't been promoted. We know it's a title fight in the back of my mind, but I had to reassure myself, we're fighting for a title here. It's I feel the same way. It's I want to hear that more rather than these two giants fighting. This is for the PFL title. This is huge. So I don't know, man. I wish it was promoted a little bit better too.
We've talked about what Francis is fighting for, and there is a title on the line, and this one is for his son. And sure, there's legacy, and I'm sure Francis wants to win, but this is for him.
Yeah.
What will a win in this fight mean to Francis compared to other fights, since he's fighting for so much more than just titles and more from a personal level this time around?
I just think just the fact that, what this man has been through his entire life and all the trials and tribulations that he's had and the resolve that he's shown. I think it's just for him mentally to know that he can clear another hurdle. No person should ever have to go through what no parent especially should ever have to go through what he went through. But this one's for him, man. And I think it has a different connotation. It really does. It's nothing that I think as a coach you want to overuse, this one's for, we all know what it's for. Right. And I just envision the weight lifted off his shoulders after getting through this one and getting a win and getting his hands raised. I can feel the emotions coming out of him, knowing how much he's been through in the last, 6 to 8 months. So, not, even back when he fought Joshua, just back even from then, there's a lot riding on this, and it's not too much pressure. We're not trying to add any more, additional pressure that we need. We don't need that. He just needs to go out and perform and do what he does best. And he's going to go out and get a knockout. I just know that. I just know Francis that has been through so much shit his entire life. This is just another little chapter for him.
You think this thing, you don't have to give away the game plan, but true or false, more than 25% of this fight is going to take place in the wrestling department?
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Looking forward to that fight. It's hard to transition from Francis Ngannou to Sean Strickland because the man is he's patiently waiting for his chance at a rematch with Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. And there's been some weirdness in the media spaces, I'm sure you've seen, with DDP's coach doing some interviews with Submission Radio saying that, yeah, DDP's fighting Robert Whittaker in February, which I thought was kind of weird because Robert Whittaker hasn't even fought Khamzat Chimaev yet. So maybe there's just a little bit of confidence on the DDP side, but that made the rounds. And luckily, Dana White put that fire out earlier this week on the Contender Series saying, no, Sean is next. What is his mentality right now? Because this has to be the longest he's prepared for a singular opponent in his entire career.
Nothing's changed with him at all. I mean, he's been in the gym. He's been training his ass off. And really, he's kind of has his coaching hat on right now. He's been helping a ton of us other fighters get ready within the room. Michel Pereira's got his big debut main event coming up. He went out and helped Alex Pereira get ready for his fight. So his teammate hat is on, but by doing so, I think it really elevates and raises the game of the rest of the guys in the room. And, he's been training his ass off. So he's going to be in the corner with me this week with Sean on the short notice fight. So that's really been his mentality. Just, I'm going to help the rest of the guys get ready for their fights, prepare, but in doing so, I'm going to stay sharp and be ready to go when the phone rings for me.
What was it like watching that Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree fight? Because it was obviously bonkers, but you being a guy who's been in the gym with Sean and you're watching Pereira just pepper that jab throughout the fight, it looked a little familiar, right? Like, right? It was fun to watch.
It was a lot of fun to watch. It was kind of how I anticipated the fight to break down. I really thought Khalil would have an opportunity in the first couple rounds. The reason why is Alex is a data collector, and he looks for the holes, he looks for the flaws. And if you see the way that he kind of took round 1 and 2, not necessarily off, but he used that to kind of figure out what Khalil was going to do, how he's going to approach him. But Khalil had that opportunity, man, to get him out of there in those first couple rounds. And then you saw Alex really start taking over with the jab. He started doing a really good job of what we call first and third. Alex would go to first, and then the second would be Khalil. He would pull off, and then he would add 2 or 3 punches to continue his combination. So there's like literally the third round, the entire round was Alex Pereira jab, pull, and then 2, 3, 4. Right, he would add, and then he would just get out of the way of that one big Khalil Roundtree offering, and then he would add in his counters. And then almost in round 4 is like, dude, stop playing with your food, because Khalil's always going to be dangerous. And you just kept peppering and peppering. I'm like, just finish him. You're playing with your food, man. So no, it was a good fight. I was proud of both guys, man. I think Khalil Roundtree really put himself on the map, and people understood what he's capable of. And the dude's a killer, and he'll be within that title contention, I think, for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's great. It's great seeing a guy like that get a big boost despite the loss, getting a standing ovation from that Salt Lake City crowd that was booing everything and everybody. They were just merciless out there. But we've talked about the Sean Strickland Alex Pereira fight at UFC 276 and how crazy it was and how it drove you crazy. And we kind of laugh at it now, but seeing how the relationship has evolved from, that press conference and what have you to the knockout to where they're at now, seeing the relationship between Sean and Alex Pereira just continuously evolve, and they become more part of each other's lives, giving each other credit. Pereira's like, nah, I'm not going to middleweight because Sean's next. I'm not going to get in his way. That's pretty freaking cool. You don't see that often.
No, it's very cool. And they became a big part of our family. Like Polino and I talk all the time. Alex has been such a good, like, teammate, if you will, training partner for, he wants to come out here and get ready for his next fight. Spent some time at the gym. So it is that silver lining, like you said, man. These guys fought once. Alex got the better of the situation, but we actually get to learn and develop, and vice versa. We can help him. So it's been pretty cool to see.
Plus, having Sean around him, it doesn't hurt to try and snatch some of those Poatan vibes right now, because 100%. Holy shit, man. There have been rises in this sport, and there have been runs. Like Conor McGregor is probably the most memorable one in the history of the sport, but I don't know if we're ever going to see anything like this, like what Alex Pereira is doing right now. It's just ridiculous. And you've been around the game a little bit longer than I have, and you've seen a lot of different things, but can you remember seeing anything like this?
Not to this level, not to this degree, and not to the rise of, like, not necessarily stardom. I mean, he is a star, but the way that he's winning these fights, the way that he's dismantling his opponents, and these are all for titles, man. And not only are they titles, they're 2 different divisions. If he wants to go back down to 185 and compete, he can't. Now he's talking about going to heavyweight, and can he compete at heavyweight? Absolutely, he can. This guy, the sky's the limit, man. And I think, just what he's been doing is pretty remarkable when you think about when he just really scratched the surface in his career at MMA.
When it comes to Sean versus DDP, what sort of different approach do you take here, especially after the Izzy fight, which is fun as hell? And I thought Adesanya looked really, really good in that fight. I thought that was actually the best he's looked in a long time. But DDP is such a brute in that. Do you just bring in a couple of Raiders linebackers to chase Sean around? Like, what the hell do you do with this guy?
Yeah, no, I'm bringing in Johnny Eblen for sure. Like, I brought Johnny in. We brought Johnny in we bring him in all the time, but Johnny will fight on the Saudi card. So once he gets healed up and ready to come, we'll have him out here. But Johnny brings the best out of Sean, and in styles. I think Johnny can emulate so many different styles for us. He's another guy I consider a teammate, although he's a an ATT champion, but we cross train quite a bit. So I'm gonna lean heavy on Johnny Eblen this camp, and it's hard to emulate what Dricus does because I think he's very unorthodox, but knows what he's doing within his own style. But there's so many things, Mike, that we didn't do right. I think we got caught with tunnel vision on leading with the jab and just winning off the jab, where I think there was other things that we got away from that would really help us solidify the fight. On the feet and the floor, man, there were some other things that I think we could have done better. So I'm looking forward to this matchup again. Dricus wrote me a couple days ago, man. He's like, yo, I'm excited to go against you again, bro. Like, and I have all the love and respect for Dricus and his team, but this is our job, man. We got to go out and try to execute and get this title back to America.
You don't have to reveal because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but is the fight like not locked and loaded, but do we know when it's happening potentially?
I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. I truly don't. I don't know when that's going to happen, but shit, we're hoping it's soon, like, beginning early of next year, and hoping it's in America.
I want to go back to UFC 306 because Daniel Zellhuber and Esteban Ribovic.
Oh yeah.
Good God, man. What a fight. I knew it would be a great fight. Esteban Ribovic officially isn't a human being, and I'm starting to question whether or not Daniel Zellhuber is a human being either, because that third round was absolutely insane. The whole fight was insane, but that third round was just grit and heart and chins and fists and feet and elbows. It was absolutely everything. Zellhuber hurts him. Ribovic hurts him. Zellhuber runs into the cage and falls over, but gets up and is winging punches. It was friggin' nuts, man. Like, what was that like being in the corner? Because Zellhuber's been one of your big projects, right? I always bring up the story. Zellhuber's like, you just went out in your driveway and there's a Lamborghini and it's yours, and you just take it for a ride, and you're like, what the hell is this? And then you have to try to figure out how to control it. And that's how you kind of compared Daniel to. But watching that go down, even though it didn't go Daniel's way, what was that like?
I would, okay, so during that chaos of the third round, I remember looking over at Capetillo and Hector, and I like literally like took my hat off because we're screaming like, clinch him up, grab him, take that, whatever. And he can't hear shit. The crowd is going crazy. There's no way in hell he can hear a fucking thing. I just take my hat off and just lean back, and I'm just like, let's go. I got the best seat in the house. You know what I mean? Like, there's no coaching you can do at that moment other than just sit back and watch, because you got the best seat in the house, man. But it was an amazing fight. I felt like, Daniel almost kind of, I would say, let him in the fight. We didn't utilize our length to the best of our ability early. He established it in round 2. And then what we wanted to do was utilize that car crash that I call that backside elbow. And that's what he found in round 3. When he came through the length of Daniel, walk him into your elbow, he was able to find it. But we wanted to try to make that more of a takedown off that, get on top, cook the rest of the fight away. And, unfortunately, we weren't able to find that takedown. And Ribovic came back with a nice overhand. It was a lead uppercut to the right overhand. To their credit, that same camp, we had Christoph Jagos, and he hit Daniel with a bunch of overhands. I told him, I said, Sean Soriano and these guys that are cornering Ribovic, they're going to go back to that overhand. They landed a bunch of times when you fought Christos. So you have to know the same camp, same game plans. They're going to utilize what worked well. And now, again, that overhand came over top of Daniel's shoulder, and that's what kind of started that. So great fight. I mean, I think the scorecard was I kind of felt that way. It could have been 2-0 Daniel going into 3. Could have been 1-1. So, but we left a little bit out there, and I wish we could have been able to get that fight finished.
Absolutely nuts. How's he doing? I mean, there's a lot of damage.
I just talked to him like right before I just got on the phone with you. So I literally just talked to him. He's coming to Vegas tomorrow. He's going to do commentary for the UFC on the Spanish channel. So cool. Yeah. So, I mean, he's a star in the making, man. They love him. The way that he fights, they love him. He's a good looking kid. He's well-spoken. He's just an awesome all around human being. You're proud to be his coach, not only because of the type of fighter he is, but the type of person that he is. So he makes us all better, man. And it's a joy to have the kid in the gym.
Was there a part of you that was like, Jason Herzog, stop this fight?
No,
Because you know Daniel. I mean, you know him better than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I was watching him spar dudes at Capetillo's gym that were world-class boxers, and, I've seen him get, put up against the ropes and was able to navigate through some of those positions where you're like, hey, man, like maybe he's taking a little damage and he was sat in there. And like, I just think that style that he gets from boxing sparring over Capetillo's gym was what we saw there, that Mexican heart and that spirit in that moment. He's like, I'm not going down. He never was knocked down right after the fight. He's like, he didn't knock me down. I knocked him down. I should have won the round. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, fuck, it was close, dude. So God love him.
Unbelievable stuff. I saw that the new welterweight champion, Belal Muhammad, was getting a little work in over there.
Yeah.
What a different cat, man. He is just a monster.
Yeah, man. I've known Belal a long time. He's a good friend of mine. We give each other shit back and forth all the time about him and Sean. He's like, would you corner against me if I fought Sean? I'm like, fuck yeah, I would, dude. Of course I'm going to corner against you. So, but I consider him a brother, man. He's my family. So anytime he's in town, we're always getting some work in together. I love his fight IQ. I love what he brings to the game. I think that, every time we work together, we're teaching each other something or learning something new or different. And, I think Belal is a great champion, and I think he's a great human being as well. So it's always a joy to get to spend some time with him.
I hope you give the right answer here. And I think I know where the UFC is going with this, and I hope they make the right choice. But if you were the matchmaker, are you doing Belal versus Shavkat, or are you doing Belal versus Usman?
Shavkat.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Shavkat, 100%.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, I think that's the fight they're gonna make. So, in speaking with Belal, I think that's the fight they were talking to him about. So I think that's the fight they're gonna make.
Belal calls you up and says, "Look, we just booked this fight. Obviously, I have my team, Lewis Taylor, and etc." What advice you giving him? Just like, if you have like 30 seconds, I know breaking down Shavkat's going to take a lot more than 30 seconds, because like, dude, I got 30 seconds and I can't talk to you again until the fight's over.
Yeah, that's actually what we worked on when he was in town. So that was the game plan. And Lewis was here. So we ran some routes, just some things. And we've been doing this all the way back from the Stephen Thompson fight. So Belal will call me. We'll FaceTime. Sometimes he's in town. We'll run some routes. So the Stephen Wonderboy fight was all cage control, cutoffs, how to get, our single legs and establish that. The Luque fight, we had a whole different thing. We did some stuff for the Sean Brady camp. During the Leon Edwards fight, FaceTimes, hey, what are you thinking with this? So I'll just give him one or two things conceptually. Like, he likes, hey, what do you like off of this? What are you guys doing this? What's your game plan? Boom, we'll kind of exchange some notes and stuff like that. So when he was out there, he just said, hey, if I'm fighting Shavkat, if this is the fight, can we run some routes off of that? What do you got? So myself and Lewis Taylor and Belal just sat like 2 days and did some stuff. So it was a lot of fun, man.
You're a very busy man. You have all these fighters. You're running practices, Big Glove Mondays, all that fun stuff. You're traveling the world. And now you're a podcaster on top of that. The Verse Us podcast, which is very fun, very chill, laid back. Belal was on there. I know Paul Felder was on there. Sean Strickland was on there, and a host of others. When did this happen? How did this happen? Because it just dropped. I got a press release out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, shit. And I think it was like a day after I talked to you.
Yeah, Randy and I were talking about it when we were in Saudi. I think it was even maybe the Tyson Fury camp. We were out in Saudi. We were roommates, or maybe it was the Joshua fight. We just started kicking around these ideas. I don't have a whole lot of time or extra time to get it in, but we sure have a whole lot of fun stories and shit we can talk. And and that's what I kind of like enjoy, like bringing like Aljo on and talking about camps and Sean or whoever else. And I think there's just an intimate side between coaches and fighters or teammates that, the fans don't get to see, and, bring out our personalities a little bit more. So that was the premise of doing it. Right now, we just wrapped up a season 1. Now I go on the road and travel. So we're going to kind of do it out in season. So now we'll start season 2 when I get back in November.
Nice. You mentioned Sean, and we talked about Strickland, but there's another Sean on the block in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, debuting this Saturday. Fortunately, Chris Barnett is stuck in Florida with the hurricane going on. So Sean Sharaf makes his UFC debut. Tell us a little bit about Sean.
Heavy power, big overhands, kid out of California. Actually knew Strickland very well. Started coming out and training with us just about a year ago. And, he just fought on the lights out Sean Merriman's show not so long ago, one via overhand. So, it's that same mentality that a lot of these guys keep in the gym. Excuse me, especially when you're on the cusp. It's like, hey, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And he knew, like, hey, that phone rings and this is an opportunity to take. So unfortunately, Chris is out of the fight, and Tafa's the guy that we have to go fight. I told him, bro, this is a great stylistic matchup. Take this opportunity and let's go run with it.
Tatiana Suarez got a big fight coming up in December against Virna Jandiroba.
Yep.
I don't know how. My first thought when they booked this was, all right, Zhang's going to 25. It just I don't understand why she's not getting a title shot. But then they pair those two together because I feel like it's perfectly set up. Tatiana fights Zhang, Virna gets the winner, good to go. Why do you think they did this? And what's your thoughts on it?
I don't know. And I feel bad because, Tatiana is been just training and she's ready to go, and dude, she's an absolute killer. Like in this gym, like watching her train, she's unbelievable. So obviously it's about staying healthy and just getting her to the fight. And I think, I was waiting for them to book a title fight for her. That's definitely what I thought was going to be before the end of the year. So I remember just actually asking Nate or one of the guys, like, what's going on with Tatiana? And we were just waiting for her the other girl to sign the contract, So I don't think she wanted that fight. I don't know, man. So we'll see. This is it. So she needs to go out and go get a win. But dude, she's incredibly talented. She's super tough, and watching her in the gym, man, she just beats shit out of everybody. She does, man. It's fun.
Yeah, she's something else, and you always wonder what the career would look like now if she didn't get hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 100%.
It's one of the big MMA what ifs. Yet she's still fighting and still winning, and could
still
be
kicking the shit out of people.
Oh man, well. I appreciate the time, my man. I know, like I said, you got a lot going on. Sean fighting on Saturday. You got Francis fighting the following week. It's just one thing after another.
We got Thimba, Brad, Sean on Saturday. So
that's right.
Yeah.
A whole host, a whole slew.
Yeah.
Of the whole bag fighters. The whole bag. But I appreciate it, man. All the best to the squad this Saturday. All the best to you and Francis and the rest of the squad next week. And I'm sure we'll talk before some other big fights on the horizon.
Yes, sir, Mike. Good to talk to you, my brother.